gang shit. That's all I'm on.
Let me just start this bit off by apologizing that you're at my mercy and I just want to watch some weird shit and see where it goes. I haven't even shoot, darn it. I just said a cuss word. Oh shoot. Boy. People are going to be mad at me. So yeah, we're going to just consciousness, maybe we're living in a simulation. I don't know. These guys are talking about it. I'm curious. And if I know the internet people like yourself, you might be too.
What we're saying is, yeah, all that stuff is important, but we have to prove how it arises from just experiences and probabilistic relationships among experiences. Mm-hmm. So that's, as a scientist.
Just last night, I was laying on the couch. I turned my head just right, and either something went a little haywire with my spinal cord, or I witnessed a glitch in the matrix because there's suddenly stars. And not just like, ooh, a couple stars floating around, like the whole room lit up with stars. It was like it was like all across the wall. And then it went away and I'm like staring. I'm like, what the f was that? And then earlier in the day, I'd seen a black cat. I'd seen a lot of this black cat too. So I don't, are these things related? Or am I correlating two unrelated things and co-joining them even and just making them related because my brain is forming patterns and recognizing things. It's part of our survival mechanisms that have been honed for hundreds of thousands of years. We've been perceiving our environment, recognizing patterns for survival purposes. So pretty much a fucking survival expert at this point.
You try, it's what we call Occam's razor. You want to have the minimum number of assumptions at the start of your theory. Every theory has assumptions. They're the miracles of the theory. We want as few miracles as possible, right? So our only miracles are, well, it's a big miracle. There are experiences and probabilistic relationships among experiences. And we formalize that. The experiences, we just write down what's called probability spaces. We can, if you want, we can talk about probability spaces. And the relationships among experiences are what we call Markovian kernels, and we get what's called Markov chains. So it's very simple dynamics.
So we'll explain what Markovian dynamics are in a second. Now that I finally have at least a tiny bit of a grasp, I don't know how important it is that people understand that.
Sure.
But I do want to know, how important is it that one bit of qualia impacts other qualia? Like, does that relationship play heavily into the idea of consciousness as a fundamental agent?
Yes, we stipulate that as a fundamental property that experiences aren't in a vacuum. Experiences probabilistically lead to other experiences.
Okay. It's very interesting that you said not in a vacuum, because my whole thesis is that the construct of space-time, the simulation, let's just be very clear, the simulation that is this real world, sorry, that's a terrible use of the word real, the simulation that everybody lives in and experiences is required, this is my pitch, the simulation is a required constraint in order to give context that something can be like anything, but that for consciousness to explore the possibility space of qualia, you have to have a rule set. Mm-hmm. And the rule set that we're all in, which may be one of a gazillion headsets, but the rule set that we're all in creates the possibility for the subset of qualia that we as human beings or lizards or whatever experience. But without that rule set people that is space-time, we would not have enough limitations
he's a lizard
to give us the context in order to feel a certain way.
Exactly.
God, these guys are they're just bullshitting. Okay, so let me break it down. Talk to the hand, okay? Jesus. We are living in a biological simulation. And let me explain what I mean by that. So our limiting interface is these fucking things right here, and these fucking things right here, and this fucking thing right here, and that fucking thing down there, right down there, you know what I'm saying? So, we can't even observe objective reality, nor should we. We can only see a certain narrow band of the light spectrum that exists. We only see visible light. There's UV light. There's thermal radiation. There's all kinds of cameras out there that can detect this shit. But we cannot see it with our eyes. We also can't see micro level. We need a microscope, you know what I'm saying? So we can't see that shit either. We only see what's important to us. We only hear what's important to us. And the brain filters out a bunch of shit that it has been deemed over hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, oldest Homo sapien remained 300,000 years. Probably been here longer than that, unless you're a flat earther. I don't even know what your beliefs are, but if you believe in the Bible, 2,000 years, 3,000 years, whatever it is, flat earth, whatever that deal is, I don't know. However long you believe we've been around for, if you don't believe in carbon dating, I don't know what you believe in. Okay, but based on carbon dating, 300,000 years at the moment. This is why optical illusions work, because your brain just processes extraneous shit out. You know what I'm saying? You just see you see what's important, and that's why it's easy to trick your senses. You only hear a certain range of sounds that are audible. You can't perceive the rest of them. We can record it with special equipment. Dogs can hear it. Dogs can see in the dark. Animals can see in the dark. We can barely see shit in the dark unless you eat a shitload of carrots. And I'm talking both ends. In your mouth, up the... You know what I'm saying? A lot of carrots. The most carrots that you can possibly fit inside yourself at one time. Night vision. That's how you get it. Carrots. So that is why, in a nutshell, we're in a simulation, because we can't perceive objective reality. There's so much more going on around us, but due to survival, we perceive threats and recognize patterns, and we cut the rest of the shit out. If you don't believe me, let me just do a quick little... I'll play this. Let's keep it rolling.
That's a very good way to put it. So that a lizard presumably sees things very, very differently than I do. Pigeons have 4 color receptors. We only have 3.
Pigeons have 4?
Yeah, that's right. So they see more color than we do. Birds...
That's bullshit. I feel cheated now. Pigeons?
Well,
I knew 15% of women do. I did not know pigeons.
Yeah, the mantis shrimp has more than 10.
Photoreceptors?
Yes. That's right. Different kinds of...
This is perfect, because this explains it like I'm 5. And I think there's a lot of 5-year-olds watching this content. Because if I was 5 years old, I'd be very interested. Reality, that's all bullshit. That's just a word that you use so you can sleep at night. You don't know what the fuck reality even is, and neither do the top scientists. The most brilliant people in the world, the richest dude in the world, doesn't have a better grasp on reality than you well-regarded folk do, and they're subject to the same biological limitations. You can't buy more computational power. You can't buy better stuff yet. You know what I mean? We'll start growing it in the lab. Stem cells. You know what I'm saying? So this is why. I don't know who made this guy an authority, but let's just go with. Whoops. Nope. Just absolute trash. Learn how to run a computer. Why can things like optical illusions trick our brain? Our brain is heavily optimized for pattern recognition and prediction. It happens without our even being aware of it. So when something breaks set patterns that we're used to, that pattern has already been recognized and predicted by our brains well before we get to the point of consciously pondering the issue. A lot of thinking happens with us thinking about it at a conscious internal monologue, without us thinking about it. It's the same place we get our gut feelings we can't explain because they happen below that monologue level. Do another one, but play this.
Of, or pigments that are used for the photoreception process. So
Crazy.
so we may be cheated in many ways.
That is for sure.
So yeah, we and we don't, for example, perceive polarization of light, and birds and maybe bees do, as they can perceive the
Everybody can
polarization
do
of
this.
light.
It's not a disease.
We can't
Just normal shit.
directly experience electric fields, and there are animals in the water that can do that.
Patterns.
So some
Your
that see
brain is not
infrared,
letting
some
you
that
see
see
what's really
ultraviolet
going on.
that we
It's
can't.
filtering.
So we're
filtering
we
and
have a
only
very
allowing you
small window,
important
and
information.
other animals are not restricted to the windows in which we see. So I like your idea that there's an infinite space of conscious experiences to explore, and when we look at different animals, we're seeing different explorations with different headsets, and different, as you say, different constraints, and it's in some sense
They do
consciousness
science
exploring
or
all of its
something. I don't know what the fuck
possibilities,
they
all
do.
the possible
Trash.
ways that to explore. So in some sense, we're here for the ride, and we should enjoy the ride. We're exploring.
Hell yeah,
We
dog.
thought this was the final
Enjoy
reality.
the
No, this is just
fucking
one
ride.
of countless possible headsets. Just one of countless, and we'll enjoy this ride, and then consciousness will then it's looking through other headsets. So I like your idea. Yeah, that it's there's some kind of consistency, some kind of coherence, but it's a subset of the experiences. There's an infinite number of experiences to explore. So this ride never ends.
Okay, so when I think about consciousness as fundamental, I cannot help but imagine a blob that then takes shape in the form of a human or a lizard or an avocado.
We're worried about reality. Your brain can't even figure out what direction that fucking thing's moving in. All right, back to the show.
Whatever. Help me understand what do you have an image in your head of what consciousness is? Is it just completely non-physical?
Well, maybe the closest I can get that would be a way that would communicate to people would be if you go into an entirely quiet room, shut off all the lights, close your eyes, and get very, very still, and don't think.
Good luck.
That's right. Usually letting go of thought is not easy, but if you can go for a few seconds or a minute with absolutely no thought, and now you're just aware.
Child's play.
You realize, yeah, I
Breathing.
can be aware.
Focus on your fucking breathing, bitch.
Without being aware of anything in particular.
Nothing except for
I
being present in your
am
goddamn body.
Fundamentally, awareness.
And
And into that awareness, right now are coming a cup, a microphone, a table.
drop some goddamn awareness on you. You're an infant. You're an infinitesimally small piece of carbon shit on a bigger piece of shit in a big shit verse that goes on for shitfinity.
I can close
The
my eyes, and those
shitpocalypse is
are
coming.
gone from awareness. So somehow there is this field of awareness that is, in some sense, deeply and fundamentally who you really are. It
Seems like your theory would say that's false.
Well, it's going to say that the reason why I talk about this awareness is that when we talk about all these specific conscious experiences, we have to write down something that's called a probability space. First, we're required mathematically to do that. So we write down a probability space in which
Probability of qualia.
That's right, probability of qualia. So you have to write down the space of all the potential qualia that this particular conscious agent could experience. So here is this space, and there's the mathematical structure. It's just sitting there prior to any particular experience happening. It's just sitting there. And it took me a few years to ask myself the question, what is that space? I had to write it down. I couldn't do the math. I couldn't write down my Markovian dynamics until I wrote down the probability spaces. But the way we do it is we just, of course, have to write that down, so you don't even think about it. You write down the probability space, and you go on to the fun stuff. You write down now the dynamics and so forth. But a few years later, I came back and go, well, wait a minute. I went too quickly on this first part. I had to write down a probability space. What does that mean? Because this is a space prior to any specific conscious experiences happening.
Mm.
And so the best I can say right now is that perhaps is the mathematical counterpart to what I was just describing, which is the awareness that you can experience prior to having any particular specific conscious experience arise in that awareness. So that's why I talk about it in that way.
Can I just restate that to make sure that I
Sure.
understand and linger on it for a second for the audience? So you're using words that I know you know are dangerous, that Annika Harris has warned you about letting people carry the sense of self into all this.
Right.
Because you said you are the awareness, but really consciousness is the awareness that animates me in some way, or it needs my constraints in order for it to experience the qualia.
Goddamn, we handicap ourselves so fucking bad by being like, oh, religion and God is so fucking stupid. We're so fucking smart, and science is the new God, and scientists are the new priests, and fucking everything's quantitative and fucking bullshit. You know? Everything can be tested. No, only things can be fucking disproven. The limitation of science is that there are many things that we cannot disprove because we're fucking pathetic and we think we're the shit. So we've been wrong over and over and over again because we think we're disproving, and then that's disproven by better science, by better instruments. They're like, no, that was a false observation. It was done by multiple people, but false observation. And then it happens again. And then it happens again. And we just never learn. I mean, no, it's no better than the priest telling you that the Black Plague was caused by your sins, and you could go kill Muslims in the Middle East in the Crusades and be absolved of said sins. I mean, that's just as crazy as saying, you know, stay inside and wear a mask because there's like something that has twice the death rate of the flu. I mean, pretty low mortality, you know, like 2 years of stupidity. Because scientists, I don't know, somebody's running an experiment. I think it was just the control. Hey, will these motherfuckers just go along with it? What if we tell them to just stay home, and then we print money? Everybody just stays home. Just print money, right? That'll work. No problem. Okay, everybody fucking stay home, and everybody did it. Everybody just bitched out and was like, "Oh yeah, government said, better not defy the unlawful orders of the government that are not backed up in anything except for executive power and nonsense and just obedience, you know, compliance. We demand compliance, and you shall give it to us." And comply you did. Nice work, guys. Now they've established a baseline, and we're like in Die Hard, where the goddamn terrorists are going to use the FBI playbook against them. Well, we're the FBI, and they're the goddamn terrorists, and they're going to use that shit again. Mark my words and a bunch of other wingnuts out there that are saying this type of thing. But it will happen.
I think that's the right way to think about it. And so in those moments where either through meditation, I get to where I am simply aware of the qualia of being aware, but when it's not aware of anything in particular, so I'm not aware that my foot hurts. I'm not aware that my stomach is churning on food. I'm not aware of something I need to do later in that day. I am just the potential to point that awareness at something is the thing that I'm sitting in. That's who we really are. So that feels right, but I know it's retrapping me in my sense of self that I am a real thing. Your whole thing clicks into place for me when I realize that according to your theory, and this makes a lot of things make sense in my own life, I am simply one instantiation that creates a set of what I call biological limitations that then once I have those constraints, now the fundamental element of consciousness can begin to explore its qualia. the different things that like, oh, in this human form, I can experience these things. And with all the context that this person has, he responds to this thing in this way.
Right. Agreed.
There are some deep complexities with that, but we'll put.
Okay, this is too much for me. Let's just wrap this up. Qualia is some sort of merging of trying to explain things that you used to maybe use your like definition of a spirit, and now you're trying to understand it in like a physical sense instead of a mystical sense. And you know, that's fine. You don't have to believe that there's anything more than just a hole in the ground for you at the end, but Hindu culture believes in reincarnation, and there are scientific studies conducted inside said culture where they observe a phenomenon where children below the age of 5 to 7, this phenomenon stops manifesting after that, but these children know things about places that they claim to have lived in previous lives. Some people are family members and remember, you know, children might say something like, I remember when I was big and you were little and we danced in the kitchen, and this child is speaking to his mother who danced with her grandfather in the kitchen when she was a little girl and he was big. I let that stew for a couple weeks, then I went on Reddit, and I found that in this country there's a lot of people telling similar stories about children who, you know how to sharpen a hoe with a bastard file. Children who remember living at a branch of a river in China. They remember the names of the rivers, and sure enough, they looked it up, and there's a town where those two rivers meet. Now, maybe that 4-year-old was reading a map and just playing an extravagant joke. Maybe an adult fed them this information to mess with their parents. Maybe it's not bullshit, and we are just scared of the idea that there's shit that we don't understand going on because it makes us feel stupid. Anyway.
I can't imagine he's.
Election or Robert Kennedy. Let's do this one first, and then
He's actually going to make it to the 24 elections. I just don't believe it.
You know what was kind of weird? What I saw the other day on Twitter, I saw an ad from Newsom for campaigns. So I'm like, what are you doing? What's the outcome of
Twitter? Get with it. It's X, buddy. Don't you ever fucking say that word again. Ever. I don't want to hear Twitter. Stupidest shit ever. Tweets? Good riddance. I'm Xing it up. You know what I'm saying?
You're raising money right now. It's not like you're, running for governor or you need to start raising money now. So what's this all about? So that clip, the ad I saw for 2 days of Newsom, that kind of made me think. I remember 4 years ago. I don't know if you remember this event. It's 4 years ago. And Joe Biden's not on Instagram at all. So he's not on Instagram. He's not doing anything. All of a sudden, Joseph Biden, Joe Biden's on Instagram. And I put a comment, first comment. All this means is he's running. Okay, this is pre him announcing that he's going to run.
Right.
And I'm boom. Because what's Joe Biden going to do on Instagram? Put a picture of who is, what he's doing, pictures with Hunter, pictures with his 7th granddaughter. You're not going to know what he's going to put up there, right? So when you see signs with Newsom.
Joe Biden should be on OnlyFans. You shouldn't get to see that content for free, If he's wearing some tight Dockers shorts with some penny loafers or something and a Hawaiian shirt. Naughty.
Some doing that, there's something there, with whether these guys are planning for taking him out. I had Chris Cuomo on the podcast a couple weeks ago. And one of the things I remember during COVID, I don't know if you remember this, every day we would see Andrew Cuomo. Every day. And the conversation was, this guy's going to be the next president. Look how presidential he is. The vast difference between two guys from New York. One acts presidential, the other one doesn't. If Andrew ran today, he would be the president. And every day, we go on Facebook. He's doing this thing. He's eating. And then, okay, maybe this guy's going to do it. And he's on the show always with Chris. And they're doing their stuff. And I'm okay, maybe this is going to happen. And then all of a sudden, his own party chose to eliminate him because he couldn't be controlled. So the thing about the Democratic Party sometimes, it could be both sides. I think if they choose to eliminate Biden, it's going to be 2, 3, 4 stories on what they're going to say. He's choosing to step away due to health. You know, my wife and I had a conversation, Jill, we're going to spend more time with the grandkids. And if he doesn't do it, then they're going to come out and they're going to say, listen, man, we got a lot of dirt on you, bro. You got to kind of step away if you want to protect your legacy. You're 81. We're going to have somebody else come in here. Notice Newsom's been edifying you and propping you up, and Newsom trashes DeSantis, and he's edifying you. This is a way of Newsom to come out if he thinks, because I think Newsom thought it's going to be him and DeSantis, because DeSantis' camp maybe thought he's going to fall out, Trump's going to drop out, and Newsom's maybe thinking about that as well. And then, so Newsom's going to come out and say, look, you know, DeSantis is not loyal. How do you trust a man that wasn't loyal to the guy that helped him become a governor? Without Trump, DeSantis would.
He would say that?
I think he would say that, and then he would say, but look how loyal Newsom was to the very end to Biden. I think that is a good storyline for them to redirect the world. Now, listen, I'm purely speculating, but it is what it is.
I don't think there's any value in being loyal to Biden, especially as time comes on and more corruption get exposed. I do not think that there's any value in that. I don't think they're going to do that. If I had to guess, Biden steps down due to a variety of reasons. Health reasons, age, he can't do it anymore, and then the corruption. The massive amounts of corruption. It depends on how far the Republicans pursue this and how much traction they get, but the massive amount of corruption that's available. I feel like if this was Trump that was in office, every single newspaper would be talking about it nonstop. They'd be screaming for him to be removed from office.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. How they get away with it now, when you're hearing everybody from the other say how they're weaponizing the justice system to eliminate a candidate. I don't know if you're following what Vivek said yesterday. He came out and he says, look, I want to compete against Trump, but not by using something like this and what they're doing on the other side. All I'm saying is, if Newsom shows that he's being respectful of Biden, because what is your theory of why DeSantis is not having momentum? What do you think about when you think about DeSantis?
Trump. He doesn't have the personality. I just don't think he can compete with Trump. Trump has just this cult behind him. I mean, these people that love Trump, he's their hero. And the things that he says, the bombastic personality, the way he can control a room, the way he speaks in an arena of screaming fans, and makes people laugh and says things that they want to hear. DeSantis can't do that. I mean, he did a great job with Florida, and people loved his position as a governor in Florida, but I feel like he's fucking that up.
You think he should have ran?
No.
Oh,
no,
so you don't even think he should have ran?
I don't think he can beat Trump. As long as Trump doesn't get arrested, as long as he's been indicted again, and who knows where that goes. But if Trump's not in jail, he can't beat him.
Yeah.
And the people that
I don't know. I mean, right now, I'd like to see it be RFK and I don't know. I guess Trump. I mean, I don't have a problem with Trump. But this country is going to be very divided for another 4 years if you have another Biden or Trump figure. Someone that the other side doesn't want. We need a unifier. We need someone who can speak to both people without them losing their goddamn mind. Just a normal, rational person who's not just in it for entertainment, shock value, and tweeting at 4 a.m. I mean, Biden doesn't have any clue what's going on, but Trump is like, he's like gasoline. It's unstable. It can be great. It can run your car, right? But it can also burn your goddamn house down. Or light you on fire at the gas station. That's why they have all the halon systems up top, because that shit is volatile. I mean, they say don't smoke around it. It's not conspiracy, folks. It is an explosive. If it's allowed to vaporize, it's explosive, And Trump is explosive. Not always a good thing. I don't think we need an explosive president. We just need a fucking somebody with some goddamn common sense to bring sanity back to this country and start stepping on lawmakers' throats and saying, hey, stop fucking around, you know? It's time to do some shit for the American people instead of the billionaires and the corporations.
Love Trump, they feel like this is a witch hunt. And they feel like all the things he's getting indicted for are bullshit anyway. Not only does it not work, but it kind of hardens their position that he's being targeted. And that these are like the actions of a banana republic. You take your political rival and you arrest him. And specifically, you charge him with things that you're fucking guilty of. Like the documents, like the classified documents. Biden's guilty of the exact same issue.
You gotta respect the level of deceptiveness that's been used. I mean, look at what Hillary did, going and saying, hey, it's Russia, but it was really, what she was doing, and now they're using a similar play as well. I don't know. Did you ever, because I remember when I was in, when we did
It's legal smear tactics. I mean, it's a dog and pony show. It's more bullshit charges that other people have been summarily dismissed. I mean, Hillary Clinton, there's no argument, like those email home server thing happened, summarily dismissed. I mean, it kind of screwed up her chances of winning the election, but it's true. Hunter Biden laptop story, just dismissed, suppressed. Can't trust these people. They are suppressing information, and then they are weaponizing the legal system against certain people that they find to be threatening, and they're doing it in front of our face. And we're taking it, just like COVID, A lot of people know it's bullshit, but what do? Nothing.
We were there at the show. Was it in Jacksonville? You were performing, and it was UFC, all of it combined together. I think DeSantis was there watching, right?
Yeah.
I think he came to the show. Did you and him ever talk about him getting on the show, or no? You guys...
I talked to him. I said hi to him.
Okay,
met him.
But you've never invited him to be on the show? Okay. Here's what I'll tell you from my experience with his camp, which is kind of weird for me. So everybody you speak to from Vivek's camp, RFK's camp, Trump's camp, like this, they get back to you. They'll just get back to you. Here's what's going on. Here's what we are. Every time you try to get a hold of anybody from DeSantis' camp, good luck. And by the way, it doesn't matter if it's like, we go and we meet with them in Tallahassee. I sit down and I meet him and his wife, Casey, rock star. Casey's something else. And DeSantis is a genius when it comes down to policies and all that stuff, but maybe not a marketer. Whether it's Christina, whether it's this other guy calls me the other day saying, hey, they're telling me you're having a hard time getting a hold of us. I said, no, we're not having a hard time getting a hold of anybody. You guys call, but you never call back afterwards about doing something together. So then that gets me to think, now all the interviews that he's doing with people, the first question everyone's asking is, why do you think your rating's so low? Why do you think you had to do this? Why do you think you had to do that? I think their marketing mistake was big, not coming out the gates early on. And they're suffering the consequences because he has to now answer the question he doesn't want to answer constantly. So I don't know. Then the other conversation is this guy ever going to be able to be a president?
Baseless. He says, I wasn't referring to baseless theories about controlled demolition. Okay, let's swap back over. I'll pull some fucking Building 7. Holy.
Is that ever going to happen?
Believe your eyes. What the fuck is the disconnect? Why do you believe what people fucking tell you? Watch the shit yourself.
Is he, marketable enough to do that? No one knows. But I think their marketing team screwed up. Or imagine your handlers, people that are your handlers, okay? If I go to your handler and I say, hey, here's what we like to do something with Joe. Let's just say you and I have never had any interaction together. I'd like to pitch Joe XYZ show or do this. Okay. He says, let me get back to you. If they're professionals, there's one of two things that happens. One, he comes up to you. If he doesn't get back to me, my interpretation is Joe's not interested.
Right.
Or they forgot to follow up, okay, because they're so busy. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they forget to follow up. But if it happens 3 different camps, it's not the team.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way. We don't.
What'd he say? Huge explosion. Does that look like just a structural collapse? So the way that controlled demolitions work is you detonate floors within milliseconds. And there were firefighters that claimed, and I mean firefighters are fucking liars. Heroes but liars. Known liars. Not politicians. Fucking firefighters, biggest bullshit artists ever, you know? Not the salt of the earth. Bullshit artists. So they said they felt explosions underground. So the way that this works is milliseconds, okay? We can actually let's I didn't even search that part. What is the waterfall technique? Okay. Milliseconds, 0.1 seconds. So every 10 floors is a second. So you got 100 stories in the building. So you would have a 10-second delay until the top floor blew. Every 10 floors is a second. You wouldn't see, just from like a regular structural collapse, you wouldn't see an explosion like that. And then, this is the best part right here. This is building 7. Just free fall. This is just one view. Maybe we'll get a second. Just free fall. Just dust. And then someone on the news said, oh yeah, we pulled it. On the news. I think it was the building owner. I mean, there's been many videos. I'm sure people have watched documentaries on this, and it's baseless claims. Baseless claims. Free fall speed. And nothing hit that one. That was a 50-story-ish building. Maybe 40. About a third the height of the other towers. No planes hit it. No real structural damage. Just some debris falling, low-level fires inside, and it just... boom. I mean, talk about jet fuel not melting steel beams. Like, what is office paperwork? And some curtains melt steel beams? I mean, what is the deal? What's the deal? You know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Building 7. We pulled it. This is why I have the disclaimer at the end, you know? I'm not suicidal. I would never friggin' kill myself. Ever. Ever. I would never fucking do that. I would never ever fucking do that. Oh boy. Okay, this is takedown. Had to pull it.
In fact, you were just told by police that you should move out of your apartment, Fabiana. Yes. You've got Carolina here?
Yes. They advised us to leave because we have...
Oh my God. Look behind us. Please pan in this way. Please be careful of your baby. This is it.
That's the building coming down.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. No. No. Listen.
We're okay.
We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
We're okay. Ashley! I think we're okay. Ashley, I think we're okay.
All right. We're going to have to move this way. We're going to have to move. We're going to have to move. That cloud is coming this way.
Yeah. Ashley, get out of there. Leave the camera unmanned if you need to, and get out of there. What we've been fearing all afternoon has apparently happened. We were watching number 7 World Trade, which was
they're going to be able to contain the fire. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse. I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that
didn't think we would be 47 stories tall. 20. Just want a simple answer, you know? How hard is this? Okay, I'll get back. I can't.
You don't want to do a lot of these tough long-form interviews. So, I don't know. This is going to be a very interesting election cycle to see what will happen. I don't think a lot of people think Joe's going to be there at the end.
Also, Kamala, what do they do with her?
Oh my God!
If he steps down, what do they do with her? Do people demand that she runs? Like
I think one person will lose their minds if Joe steps down. One person would absolutely lose her shit. You know who that is?
Who?
Hillary.
Yeah.
She's not the
7 hours. This is NIST. World Trade Center 7 endured fires for almost 7 hours from the time of collapse of the North Tower at 10:28:22 a.m. until 5:20. I mean, what did they rig the building in that amount of time? Did it just collapse? I mean, the explanations are stupid. And this is the same government that gave smallpox blankets to the Indians and herded them up. This is the same government that invented the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us into Vietnam. Turned out to be bullshit. Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. We sent the Lusitania after the Germans took out a full-page ad saying ships will be attacked if they head for England, and we put American people on that and let it depart port after the Germans said, we're going to sink it. Which then got us into World War II. So JFK files still can't be released. Potentially been hiding fucking aliens from us and spaceships. Maybe they didn't know about it. They did know about it at some point, and then fuckers buried it, if it's real. Buried it so deep, they don't even know about the shit anymore. These fucking people care more about manipulating you and keeping the ship on an even keel than telling you the truth. So, didn't think we were going down that road today, did you? Neither did I. But you know what? They brought it on themselves by bringing something up. Oh, I read about the Vivek guy. Vivek, yeah, and he is backpedaling hard. Don't be a pussy. Just fucking say it. We all saw it. You see that big plume, that big explosion come out of the tower? I mean, that's a lot of force and dust. Didn't wait for the building to fall. It's like boom, and then the building falls. Should be building falls, no dust. Building falls as building falls, then dust. And it shouldn't be a powder afterwards. I mean, if you saw, I'll pull up pictures of the site. It's all just pieces that already fit in a dump truck conveniently. I mean, this shit, there's no long beams and big pieces of debris that you'd expect, like huge chunks of building. No, it all fell. And you had asymmetrical damage. You had asymmetrical damage to each tower. Now, if one of them happened to collapse symmetrically in its own footprint perfectly and damage no other buildings on the way down, that would be a miracle. But when two of them do it, after having been not equally damaged on all sides, and one building was hit higher, one building was hit lower, the fact that top, if you chop a tree, it doesn't just implode straight down on itself. It falls over at the weak point where the damage is. So especially the one that had less height above the impact, that's not going to have enough force to just pancake the whole thing into dust. Why didn't the top fall off and at least a big portion of the building remain standing? I don't know why, but it doesn't make any sense. And then why does another building, no damage, low-level fires, just some regular office fires, not much precedent for low-level office fires to collapse a building in freefall state. And then it's weird that the building owner said we decided to pull it. But sure, believe the fucking report because they typed it up and this is what they're telling you. I mean, it's horse shit. It's fucking horse shit. And everybody's moved on. Not this guy. I'm still banging the drum, buddy, and I'll never stop. Ever.
First. Kamala
Right.
becomes the first president. You know, if he steps down before,
Right.
or if he finishes, I mean, that's some crazy stuff right there.
Yeah. I just can't imagine the United States wants President Kamala Harris. I don't think anybody wants that. Nobody wants that.
No.
I mean, maybe some people would prefer that over.
That psycho will just put people in jail. Kamala, oh God, whatever. I'll pull this up. We'll keep playing.
President
I'm gonna take
Trump,
forever.
But nobody
I keep
wants
stopping
that.
it.
Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. The guy's a fucking con man. I mean, everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids, when it was totally unnecessary, to being caught out in public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yep. That's
It's
your
just
president?
nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician. Just a stone cold, narrative driven politician. You know, and it's nobody thinks he's a real human.
Prospect.org.
Whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's corrupt or not, that's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, and you know that's a human being. With Newsom,
we
you've
need
got
those
like this
prisoners to
construct,
fight our fires.
this cardboard cutout of a person. It's just, I don't think people want that. But they might want it more than they want President Trump. And that's where we got Joe Biden. We didn't get Joe Biden because Joe Biden's amazing. Joe Biden's been a goof his whole fucking career. He's always been a goof. He's been caught lying so many times.
Yeah.
He's so full of shit. There's so much evidence that he's corrupt. Just undeniable evidence of corruption. And the stuff with him and his son, and then the guy who just testified that was business partners with Hunter, who talked about all the different things that Joe was involved with.
Evan Archer.
Yeah. It's fucking undeniable. And the fact that mainstream news is ignoring this, except for right-wing media, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but on the back end, when they flip, they're all united when they flip. Meaning,
if they go after him, like they did with Cuomo.
Exactly. So to me, Andrew Cuomo is a case study of what's about to come. Like, it's a conversation where whoever that guy is, there's got to be a guy that makes the phone call, right? That guy can talk to him. And they say, Joe, it's time. We got to figure something out, and you got to step away. And we're going to protect your
What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly? I think
I probably have a much higher IQ than you do. I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom 2/3 of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
If I could say one thing.
76.
I'm not questioning your IQ at all. I'm just saying that with the people that we have elected to office
in a class
in
at
recent
85.
years,
That's pretty good.
I think that we have to question their credentials
full
very
academic
solidly.
scholarship.
Well, I think you're right, Frank. But you know what
Can't
I
even
find kind of
recall.
interesting?
That's a young
It
man.
seems to me if you can speak, you're at a liability in the Democratic Party anymore. It seems to me you've all become heartless technocrats. It seems to me that you forget that what happens is we have never as a party moved this nation by 14-point position papers and 9-point programs. It seems to me that when we got involved in the civil rights movement, Frank, nobody asked Martin Luther King what his legislative agenda was. He marched to change attitudes.
that's just the start. He's been lying since the very beginning. He had to walk that back, and then he lost an earlier opportunity to run for some offices till we waited for people to forget about it. And forget they did. President Joe fucking Biden.
Legacy. Netflix has already agreed to do a massive 4-part series documentary on your life. And we got you a $30 million deal with Simon & Schuster, okay? And outside of that, you're good, you're scored away, you're going to get this award, you're going to get that award, and your wife's going to get this, and you're going to get this, and you don't have to worry about pardon, all this, but you got to step away. That person's going to make the phone call, especially to the people when you're part of the establishment. That person can't make the phone call to the anti-establishment people, but that person can make the phone call to the establishment people, and he's full-blown establishment, 50 years if you want to, 60 years. The Newsom thing is a little bit interesting. I think Newsom is 10 times more marketable than Biden. When Newsom went on Hannity, I don't know if you saw it or not, most people said Newsom won. And oh my God, it was, he did a very good job representing himself as a politician. First of all, what you're doing is you're going in enemy territory, Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity is a Trump guy. So you're willing to go to anybody and you go to him. You didn't go to somebody that's a little safer. You went straight to him. And afterwards, everyone's like, Newsom showed up, he did this, he did that. So if Newsom takes a page out of Trump's playbook to go against opposition, he should.
Biden white-splained that Latinos in America resist vaccinations because they're worried that they'll be vaccinated and deported. Just a few days ago, while lamenting the difficulty of convincing many Latinos and blacks to take the COVID vaccine, he committed a series of racially charged blunders that barely registered in the corporate media's consciousness because they only care when Trump says something that they don't like. When Biden says it, they just sweep it under the rug.
Show strength. Democrats are just going to get behind somebody, and they got a behemoth of a machine to start talking about why he's such a hero, why he's such a this, why he's so noble. So, the other part, Joe, that RFK is confusing a lot of these guys, RFK and Vivek. What are the two guys doing? They're going on podcasts. They're going everywhere.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are not realizing the power of you yet, the power of the podcast model, the power of Friedman's, the power of going and talking to the people because it's digital. I'm looking at the video here, 15-minute clip, 5-minute clip, Twitter short clip. So I think this could be the first case study where mainstream media for an election, this could be the last one where they have a little bit of an advantage. I think it's about to be done for them.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, it's a terrible format. I mean, mainstream media has always been hampered by the fact they have ads every 7 minutes. It's always been. Every conversation is only allowed to have a certain amount of depth.
Hold that thought. We'll
because
be right
you can't
back
expand on things. If you have like something very complicated to discuss,
pathetic.
You need to let someone talk without any interruption,
Shithawks.
and then there needs to be some back and forth. That takes time. It takes a long time for someone to clearly establish. When you're talking about the facts of a very important piece of policy or a very important situation that's going on in America, like say the border crisis. You can't talk about the border crisis in 5 minutes. It's super complicated. You can't talk about Title 42 in 40 minutes. You can't talk about any of these things in a short amount of time. You need hours. You need to be able to expand for hours and not be interrupted by commercial breaks. But they're hampered by that model. It's always going to be, and then they're also hampered by the fact that you don't get individual, unique voices and perspectives. You get narrative-driven, policy-driven, ideologically driven hosts who they're contained by whatever system that they're a part of. They're contained by their executives and the producers and the people behind the scenes, and they only have so much leeway for opinion. We saw that with Tucker. Tucker ventured outside.
More of the celebrated, most voted for president of all time. He got more votes than anybody else. In 2010, he eulogized Senator Robert Byrd, former exalted Cyclops in the Ku Klux Klan, saying he's one of my mentors and that the Senate is a lesser place for his going. In 2007, he referred to Barack Obama as the first mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean. In 2006, he said, you cannot go to a 7-Eleven or Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. Way back in 1977, he said that forced busing to desegregate schools would cause his children to grow up in a quote-unquote racial jungle. The best part is, of course, he infamously worked with the segregationist senators to oppose the mandatory busing, which decades later led to the strongest moment in Kamala Harris's campaign for president, when she blasted him as him having personally impacted her as a young girl. And over the course of his entire career, he had kind words to say about the staunchly segregationist senators. So, his fucking running mate said that he was racist against her, but she got the fuck over it and became his vice president. So that's the lesson for today, folks, is if Kamala can do it, we can too. You know what I mean? If Kamala can get over it and work with Joe for the greater good of them being elected and having the power and being able to manipulate the fuck out of you, then I think that we can look past our differences and for the greater good of not getting fucked over as a population, as Americans, of all colors and all genders and all heights and weights and intellectual capabilities, eye colors, gag reflex problems, diarrhea, solid stool, yellow pee, clear pee, long fingernails, short fingernails. There's nothing that can divide us when we realize that we're being fucked over by the big dogs. You know what I mean? Just stop it. Stop fighting with your neighbors. The guy next door living in a trailer driving a 1982 Thunderbird is not fucking you over. He's not fucking anybody over. He's drunk when he's not at work, okay? That might be part of the problem.
Side of that, and he had a podcast voice on network television. So you had a guy that was saying what he believed about the intelligence agencies, about the FBI's interference into the protests of the Capitol, about Pfizer and Moderna and what they've done with the drugs, about the lab leak, about Anthony Fauci, about all these different things. Like, he essentially was treating network television like a podcast. And with great success, the #1 guy on TV.
That's right.
And they kicked him off.
Yep, that's right.
They kicked him off at the top of the heap, which is just madness.
So I got a question for you. So in regards to Tucker, we're not, professional.
Oh no, Moderna. Oh boy, the stock really went down after the forced vaccinations kind of stopped. Oh boy, I feel bad for anyone who bought in at $4.49. Wait, no I don't, because you're a profiteering C-word who's got to do with Tuesday, and you deserve to take that L, because that was all bullshit and hype. Anybody who's buying that, you're a toxic motherfucker. You're trying to profit off people dying and getting sick. And I hope you put your whole life savings into that motherfucker. You reap what you sow, bitch. Oh, boy.
Psychoanalyzers, but we're just speculating and having a conversation. When you think about Tucker, what do you think his play is? Meaning, does Tucker come across as a guy to you that wants to be the next Rupert Murdoch billionaire? Do you say, I think this guy wants to be a billionaire? That's one. Two, do you get the vibe from Tucker? It's like, look, I just want to do a podcast, be left alone. I don't want to work for anybody. I want to do my own thing, and that's it. Or three, do you get the vibes from Tucker that Tucker wants to be a Netanyahu, a Churchill, a guy that is, a journalist that's been debating everybody, has been reading every issue for the last 20, 30 years. He went through the phase of Jon Stewart sitting there on Crossfire when he had a bow tie on trying to bully him, and then he comes out and crushes everybody, Tucker does. What do you think is his play? You think it's billions? You think it's just being left alone and let me live my life? Or you think it's actually maybe he wants to make a run for 2028?
Well, what he's doing is very profitable, right? Like what he's doing, he makes a tremendous amount of money talking about things from his perspective. I think he's going to continue to do that, whether or not he decides to become.
There's not many people on the side of the non-narrative. You know what I mean? He's one of the counter people, even if you don't like him and you think he's just as big of a shitbag as the big seven on the other side that are all pushing the other side's bullshit. He was the figurehead of Fox News, and then Murdoch shit him out because he felt uncomfortable about Tucker talking about good and evil and religion, and they got rid of their boy, their golden, the cow that laid a golden egg. Maybe it was a chicken or a goose. Who the fuck knows where the golden egg came from? But he was it. He did 169 million. 69 right there. 169 million in 2 episodes on X. Don't you ever say fucking Twitter to me. Don't you ever fucking say that. They are idiots. They're cutting off their nose to spider face. You know? Michael Scott.
From a politician, I don't know if he has any aspirations about that. Do you?
Do you ever know when somebody does?
Yeah, when someone's involved in politics in that extent, where you're talking about it constantly and you know the insides and the outsides.
I don't think I'm ready.
You know
for
all the
2024,
bullshit, all the
maybe
shenanigans.
2028.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get.
Yeah, I guess you would
ramped up.
probably have at least an idea of
put
how
up with
you would do
bullshit.
it differently and better. And he's also got a very popular voice. Like, if he decided to run for president, like, say if Trump, let's just make a scenario. Trump wins in 2024. He has 4 years.
like it?
If Tucker went
I
to
made it
run in
myself.
2028,
Well,
he
actually,
could win.
my mom and dad did.
He really could
Yeah.
win, because it would be
But I
kind
think
of
it's nice.
carrying those policies, but
People say
also
it's okay.
he's a sort of a no-nonsense guy who exposes bullshit in
Yeah.
a pretty humorous way, in a very insightful and biting way. And
We lost Colbert. We can't lose Tucker. Protect him at all costs. He's the only one that I can watch that is palatable for me. I just can't. The other ones, it's so dry and stupid and offended. Everything's offended. Oh, Tucker's at least like, oh, that sounds really stupid. Why is that? And I'm like, yeah, it does sound fucking stupid. Good point, Tucker. Continue.
that's what he was really good at on his television show.
Yeah.
And he red-pilled a lot of left-wing people. There's a lot of left-wing people during the pandemic that's like, Tucker Carlson's a propagandist and he's a piece of shit and is a right-wing asshole. And then as time went on, they're like, he's saying a lot of shit that's right.
Nothing's wrong
like,
with being
why
a piece
are
of
they
shit.
locking these tests? Why
I'm a
are they
piece of
making
shit.
kids wear masks? Like,
Fuck
is there
you.
any science to it? You know, there's actually science
feel
that just came out
attacked.
recently that said wearing an N95 mask for more than an hour a day is actually bad for you.
I got a headache from that shit.
Yeah, like you could get
I was like,
health
fuck that.
problems from
Yeah.
wearing one of those fucking things.
I'm
all
like,
the
Now
time.
we're-
holes
now
in the
we're being
mask and
told
shit,
this
'cause
stuff.
I
Yeah,
was
now we're being
forced to-
told
Yeah,
this.
and
which
then
is-
New York Times came out saying a third of the
Wear it at
deaths
work.
could be exaggerated. I don't know if you saw that
Yeah.
or not. Yeah.
Well, Lena Wen on CNN said she thinks the actual death rate is 30% of what they said it was. And then you have the death rates that are due to those ventilators. How many people died that would have lived because of ventilators? Then you have all the other things that could have been done. You know, how many people could have been helped with different treatments that were made illegal or were prohibited? The treatments that were prohibited, like some of them were monoclonal antibodies, like which are absolutely effective. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Well, they had one idea, and that idea was make sure that people get vaccinated. And anything that takes away from that, including thymosin. Thymosin is a peptide that people are using to help battle COVID. Well, they made it illegal. They banned thymosin, which is, there's no negative effects of thymosin. There's no peer-reviewed data that show it's dangerous. Meanwhile, fentanyl's still legal. You can still get, they're not stopping fentanyl. It's not legal, but it's not like they're not stopping opiates. They're not
Legal in
stopping all
China,
things
legal
that
enough
we
to
know
export and
absolutely
fuck
do
us
kill
up.
people and absolutely do cause harm and absolutely are addictive. They're not going out of their way to
Why
get
do you
rid of
think,
that.
though? Why do you think?
Because they want to make an extraordinary amount of money. The best way to make that extraordinary amount of money is to have one solution. You have one thing you can do, and you have to take this experimental vaccine that now we're finding out has massive health risks.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think. By the way, when you talk about Tucker, what you were doing on the podcast space, he was doing on the mainstream space.
Yes.
Like, very interesting. Now, when you think about talent, I'm sure if Fox invites you and says, "Hey, Joe, we'd love to have you on a guest for a 10-minute segment like that," I'm not doing no 10-minute segment. It's probably not going to be your style to go on Newsmax or Fox or CNN to give a 5-minute answer that you give. America doesn't want that anymore, right? And a lot of these guys that have these TV shows, for them to go from there to doing a podcast, they think it's easy. It's not for everybody. You're used to reading a teleprompter. Hey, so earlier today at 6 p.m., Devin Archer did this, right? But Tucker is comfortable there.
Right.
When he did the Iowa event with the Blaze, and he's up there interviewing everybody, boom. He goes after ISA. So, now that you know everything that you know, did you take the COVID vaccine, and how do you feel about the decision?
Right.
And he says, did you take any of the vaccine? No. Mike Pence, hey, so, now that you're this, what do you think about da-da-da-da-da? Well, I'm glad you're paying attention that I'm running. Yes, but how about this, right?
Yeah.
One by one by one by one. That is very scary. It's not a duplicatable skill set for a guy like him to do,
right.
Tucker. But the key is this guy going to get the itch? Because at the Turning Point USA event with Charlie Kirk, afterwards, I'm asking everybody, and I want to know, who stole the show? Like at UFC fights, the guy get, hey, $50 bonus you're going to give. Maybe it's not the main card, but it's someone that steals the show.
Right.
Okay. It was 60-40. Trump 60-40 Tucker.
Yeah.
So it's like Tucker's coming into, but the part that he's not doing right now is, which I think is going to work in his favor, he's not going in there saying, I'm not running this time around. He comes out and says in 2028, and imagine if let's just say Trump wins and he runs 2028 and Trump's endorsing him. I mean, he could be in office for 8 years.
He could. I think no one is going to run against Trump in the Republican side and win, because you're not going to get the Trump supporters. They are all in on Trump. Unless he has a stroke, unless something happens that's horrible, they're all in on Trump. If you run against Trump, you're now the enemy of Trump. If I was friends with DeSantis, I'd be like, don't do it. You can't beat that guy. You just can't. When that guy gets out there and he's waving to people and they're going crazy, you're not beating that. There's and the fact that he was the president for 4 years and the country was in a great economic situation, and it looked like his policies were actually effective, and that it looked like the unemployment was down, all business was building, regulations were being relaxed, more things were getting done. When you look at it from a policy perspective, if you just look at it on paper, what he did was effective. A lot of people think it was effective. You don't like him as a personality, so you ignore that. Don't do that. Look at it in terms of a policy perspective. People liked the ideas that he was putting forward. And now you're seeing like, oh, the wall is raised. Now the fucking everybody thinks there needs to be a wall. Even the mayor of New York City is now calling to stop immigration into his city. And this was the guy that called for it to be a sanctuary state. When the reality of what your policies, what kind of actions you put forth, what the results of that are, and those results are highly negative, you're forced to sort of recollect your thoughts and come up with a new perspective. And that's what the mayor of New York City is doing right now. When you just look at what Trump's policies were, and then obviously COVID hits, there's a lot to that, the lockdowns, the economic collapse, all the shit that came with that. None of that is good. And then
check this shit out. 2020 final death certificate, cdc.gov/NCHS/pressroom/podcast. Host, the final data for 2020 shows over 350,000 deaths from COVID-19, meaning the virus was the underlying cause of death. Total flu deaths. Globally, seasonal influenza kills 400,000 people from respiratory disease each year on average. Our world data. Globally, seasonal influenza kills 400,000 people from respiratory disease each year on average. How many people die from the flu each year? In 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic dominated the United States, flu cases were at an all-time low. The CDC reported 784 flu-related deaths during the 2020 to 2021 flu season. It's all right here, folks. Health.com. Yeah. But they're filling you full of crap and you're fucking saying yummy.
Trump holds up this like hope to bring us back to where we were when he was in office. You're not going to beat that. I don't think they're going to beat that. I don't think when you look at the Russia collusion, when you look at the Steele dossier, when you look at all the bullshit they tried to throw at him that we now know is bullshit, not just bullshit, but coordinated bullshit. When you look at the fact that they suppressed these Hunter Biden laptops.
Hillary put together the dossier. She's fake news. It's fake news. Everyone's fake news. My Trump's not
Story,
great. Sorry.
and that 51 intelligence agency representatives signed off on that to say that this was Russian disinformation, which we know they know is not true.
The whole
That's
system
scary
is full of shit,
because
dude.
now you have the intelligence
All
agencies
full of
colluding
shit.
to keep a guy from being
Stop
president
fucking
that was
buying their
president
bullshit.
during a time where the country was thriving economically. This is you're not going to beat that guy.
Would he get your vote?
He'd get my vote before. Excuse me. He'd get my vote before Biden. I said that before. I don't think that. I never thought that Biden was going to make it. I never thought that he was going to be functional. You know, like regardless of what kind of power the president actually has. And it appears under Trump, the president has a lot more power than we think they do. But under Biden, it's like he's handled. Like he's just out there talking and saying, the real problem is Donald Trump. Donald Trump, what he's done is terrible. What he did in the office. It's all nonsense. It's like
They better not. I better not answer that question. They won't let me. I'm sorry. Like, what fucking president says that?
Everyone's treating him with kid gloves because they don't want to prop up Trump. They don't want to go after him because it'll weaken the Democratic Party.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch...
Okay, so that was a lot to unpack, and we already fucking unpacked it, okay? So there's no more unpacking. We've done it. Sure you're sick of listening to my shit, you know? I fucking love it, though. I love to dig right into it. Just fucking expose the corruption and bullshit, because it's rife. It's easy. They make it so fucking easy. They fill you full of bullshit, and they're like, the fake news is the real news, and the real news, and then you're like, what? You're so confused that you're like, up is down. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Just smoke some crack, you know, that'll make everything better. Anyway, you guys keep on keeping on, motherfuckers. I'll be back.
I'm not suicidal. I would never kill myself.